Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. New is in the gospel, brother, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. It says Trump and Republicans reducing age of consent to 14 is way different than current messed up and don't really make sense. But this is I assume she's a feminist from her handle. Now I saw a video too that they said that this wasn't the case. A guy brought it out and mentioned that Trump is not changing the age of consent. And while that's neither here nor there, you got to understand that we're living in a Greco-Roman type society, so things have been often flipped upside down, and the world is under a spell. And the funny part about it is that these devils are allowed to marry little boys. You heard something called NAMBLA, which stands for National Association of Boy Lovers Association or something like that. When 65-year-old men can get with 9-10-year-old boys to some degree, which is totally disgusting. Now, while we're not advocating here for brothers to be going out and doing this, because you don't want to do nothing like this, man, because the mindset of a 14-year-old young lady today is not the same as a 14-year-old young lady 2,000 years ago during the time of the ancient world, okay? The mindsets are different. The molding is different. Everything is different, and you have to understand we're living in a totally satanic world when the scriptures say, woe to them that call evil good and good evil, okay? So ideally, when a woman reaches our puberty, because even though we're in different times, nature doesn't really change per se, all right? Because you have women that's actually still getting their cycles around 12 to 14, 15 years old. And that's been since the ancient world. That's never changed. But also you have girls getting their rags like around 7, 8, 9 years old, which is due to the hormones and the hormonal imbalances and the food and all this other stuff. And these cicadas have been going active for like the whole entire summer. That's how I know the plagues is getting ready to come. Lord's getting ready to do something. But anyway, so with that being said, this is just for biblical edification. We're not telling nobody to go out and do this, all right? But it's so ironic how, if this is true, which we're not saying it is, but see, Esau knows, man. It's you people, especially you women, that get so butthurt out of this, because see, a lot of times women, they like to internalize trauma, okay? And they make their trauma everybody else's problem, and then they tend to personalize it, which, I get it. But somehow, some way, one woman's trauma becomes the entire world's trauma because she was raped at 12 or 13 or 14 or 16 years old. Now, if a guy got a younger wife, like I seen a clip of a guy marrying a 25-year-old woman, and he was like in his 50s or some shit. Big deal. So what? Men always dealt with younger women. And we're going to go through the protocols, and we're going to show you in the scriptures how this was actually the case. Because we know they like to say, GMS, we just a bunch of unsavory men, we're sexual predators and all this other shit. And that's really not the case, man. All right? It's just we bring out according what's what in the scriptures. And it's going to get demonized because we're living in a wicked, satanic world, right? So let me get a precept real quick. Let's do this real quick. And we'll go right into it. I'll go right into the video. Because this is what happens when you give women a voice. They tend to cause more confusion than what they're worth. All right, so this is the book of Isaiah 5:20. Woe to them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. All right, so you have to understand we're living in a world that's been totally flipped. So now the things that appear to be normal in the ancient world is totally averse in a society like this. All right, you go and you tell somebody and say, well, hey, your 15-year-old daughter, she's a young woman right now. You know what I'm saying? And you say, well, her body is ready for marriage and to bear children. They will literally, you would catch a case behind that. Okay, because Esau has played on the emotions of the people. Okay, I have a 15-year-old daughter. All right, and in a perfect world, she will already be betrothed to a brother. Okay, she's 15 years old. Her body's ready. She's got a cycle. She's developing. And whenever the brother decides to make it happen and make the families come together, that's on them. But if I speak that, then they will look at me like, nigga, you're tripping. That's a little girl. And in her mindset, yeah, because, in a world like this is an immature world. But in the ancient world, in the perfect society, that would be considered normal. And that's all we're saying. Okay? Don't shoot the messenger. We're just bringing out biblical facts. But the fact we're bringing this out, people would think that we're actually doing it because that's how stupid people are. All right, in our minds, that's just not how we are wired in this kingdom. All right, so this is just for edification purposes only, to show you that GMS, we've always been transparent about the truth, and we always speak the truth no matter what type of repercussions it comes with, because we're not emotional niggas like a lot of you dudes in these other camps. Like the Pegger, he made a big deal about us bringing out this information, but yeah, he gets caught with a dildo up his ass. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like the hypocrisy of our people. And this is why a lot of you niggas are going to be straight up unalive real soon. Okay, so I'm going to play this video real quick, and you got to stomach it, because this woman here, all these women are completely out of order. And you can tell she's a proud demon, by the way. But it says here, thanks for the tag, child marriage is already legal in most states in this country, unfortunately. And you know what? It was so funny when the establishment of America came about in the 1600s, 1800s. The actual consent was like 11 or 12 years old. And you can look, a lot of that's still in those state old logs, man. Okay, now we're not telling you to go out and be stupid. We're not saying that, all right? Get that out of your mindset. But we're showing you how Esau knows what it is. Okay, his job is to deceive you and to put a devilish way of thinking on you, because he's the devil. All right, so let me play this video first, because
years
you
old
got to take
14.
TikTok with a grain of salt too, because there's a lot of misinformation going out there. As I mentioned earlier, it was a video stating that Trump didn't mention that, but the fact that this is coming up shows you that, hey, something is happening in the spirit. So let's see what Keisha got to say. John on the internet.
To 14. They're trying to change the age of adulthood from 18 years old to 14 years old. Let me say that again. They are trying to change the age of adulthood to 18 years old to 14-year-old. We can have a whole debate whether or not 18 should still be considered an adult, considering their frontal lobe has not even developed. But 18 to 14, and to pretend like this is under the illusion of public safety because there are so many 14-year-olds just running rampant within our community, causing violence, and they should be charged as adults, is bonkers in itself. I'm sorry, there should never be a blanket change of adulthood from 18-year-olds to 14-year-olds to charge them as adults for crimes that they may commit. We're talking about people who barely have the right to work in this country, let alone drive in this country, but they should be charged as adults. But really the reason why they're doing this is to enable for people who want to harm children to not be charged for the crimes that they commit against those children.
You understand, the people that write the laws are fucking baby murderers and baby grapers. This is what they do. Now, you have to understand, with the whole new age of consent, with this whole law of locking or trying to them at an adult, you got some jakes that get locked up into the juvie system, and then by the time on their 18th birthday, they're tried as an adult. You see, so in retrospect, that's what it is. But she mentioned that their frontal lobe is not even developed. Well, whose fault is that? Okay, and the crazy part about it is that a lot of you women out here, you little girls, you be out here 13, 14, 15 years old having sex with grown-ass men, man. All right, so these women want to act all holier than thou and almighty, but yet I guarantee you this chick was probably having sex when she was 16. You know why? Because to be honest with you, nature-wise, that's just the normal thing to do. Okay, I know plenty of jakes that lost their virginity at 13, 14. Hell, my grandmother got married around 14, 15 years old back in those days. So it was very common, because that's when, puberty kicks in, your body starts to change, you start to have those feelings. And on top of that, Yahweh Shai, when he was 12 years old, he was debating with scholars and lawyers and Pharisees. All right. And then they was like, well, where are you at? And he was like, don't you know about my father's business? He was 12 years old. So you people, you don't know what the hell is going on, man. That's natural human nature. Okay. Like I said, we live in a society that's highly gatekept in wickedness. This is why you have the mindset. Everybody is under a spell. That's why it tells us gross darkness cover the face of the people, man. Or he would destroy in this covering cast a veil that is spread over the nations, because people are literally, their minds are totally distorted here because they've been fed this poison for the last 500 plus years and going back into the Greco-Roman Empire. This is what happens when you have a devil that's in rulership, man. My thing is, at the age of 12, you're responsible for your own self. I mean, to some degree under the law. After your 12th birthday or your 12th curse day, when you turn at the age of 12, you are held to the extent of the law according to the scriptures. So if you committed a murder in the Bible and it was unjustified, and then you would get dealt with according to the law. Now, of course, that was probably leniency depending on the severity of the crime, because you're a young adult. You're still pretty young. You're still under your parents' tutelage. But even then, that's when the Lord can hold you accountable. Or to the point your sins won't fall upon your parents. It will be upon you if you did wickedness, man. And that's what these morons don't understand. All right, let's play a little bit more of this, and then we'll get the other video and we'll get some facts on it. And that'll be that.
They want to be able to have 14-year-olds marry older men. They also want to enable for people who might essay those young girls to not be held accountable as sexual predators, especially in the age where we are finally seeing that there are more 30 and 40-year-olds having children than teenagers. Teen pregnancy is finally decreasing. And for many people who don't know, the vast majority of teen pregnancy happens between a child and an adult. A child being the young lady, and the adult being the incredibly disgusting older man.
You see, there's always a feminist bitch like this that I always want to put or project the emotions on, negative emotions onto a man. And this is why you women are going to be put back in order, because, I mean, it goes both ways. Hell, what about all those situations when those high school teachers or those 8th grade teachers were raping the little boys? What about that? You know? See, there's always a bitter, used up skank that have the most shit to say when nobody wants them no more. Hell, if I was 55 years old and I see a 35-year-old chick and she look good, guess what? I can deal. You know why? Because that's my fucking prerogative. I can do that. But you'll have women like this that'll try to shame you when in fact her boyfriend is probably 20 years older than her. She probably started having sex when she was 12 years old. So you see the hypocrisy. You see why the Most High has to destroy this goddamn place? You people are really nerve-wracking. You people are really disgusting, man. And your mouths are going to be shut for good, man, once the Most High finally brings the purge here. And I can't wait. All this opinionated shit, man. It's to the point that people's opinions is getting ready to get them unalived and sent to the spirit world, man, because they're talking shit. Let's go to the other woman. She's probably twice as worse, because there's always these bitter, butthurt feminists that's used up and washed up to the point they didn't have sex, to the point that they with JJs don't even produce the natural lubricants anymore. Now they mad at everybody else. Like I mentioned, the dude was like in his 50s or some shit like that, and he had a 25-year-old wife. So big fucking deal. They're adults. All right, and we gonna prove in the fact that men had older women. I mean, men had younger women. Why want to know, you know, washed up ass woman, man? Now in this world, that's what we deal with, you know, because they're just the laws of this world. So of course, you know, we're gonna deal. But deep down inside, man, men that's established, they always like a younger damsel, man. A man in his 40s, man, look, a man in his 40s, he wants a nice ripe chick, 20s, 30s, whatever. You know, like hell, my mom, when she was in her 30s, she was dating some nigga that was like in his 50s. And it bothered me a little bit because I was a simple ass teenager, didn't know shit. And me, I just didn't like the dude. And you know, the fucked up part about it is that he never even done anything to me, but I was just bitter because she was out being a hoe. You know, because she broke up with this guy that I took an affinity towards. He was real cool. You know, he was like a father figure at the time, that she pushed my real dad away. So I kind of gravitated to, you know, the other guy, which was actually still pretty cool to this day. We're like good friends and shit. You know, he was, you know, he was there for us. But they broke up, and all of a sudden she got with this other dude, and I was pretty bitter about that. You know what I'm saying? But the dude, he never done nothing to me. He was always respectful, and you know, if I see him to this day, you know, I'll say, yeah, my fault. I was just being a demon. You know, I didn't know. That's my mother's fault. It ain't your fault. You know what I'm saying? So But yeah, he's probably in his 60s now, maybe 70s. Probably older than that. Okay. But anyway, let me stop talking. Let me get to the point so we can get on up out of here. So here we go.
Dr. Salas, thank you for this comment and for allowing me to deepen the conversation about how Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying to make the age of consent 14 years old in our country. So go ahead and watch that video for anyone that hasn't seen it. And I'm going to now tell everyone the differentiation between what is already established and how what they're trying to establish is way worse. And before I go on my tangent, I don't want to forget everyone check out her content as well. Dr. Salas is legit a medical doctor and PhD from Stanford. All her content also is research backed and goddess love, a brilliant woman that stands on facts. So check her out. So as she says, and other people have said it in the same video, child marriage is already legal in many states in our country. Unfortunately, yes, of course. And people are saying like, well, this isn't a change, it's already happening. No, big difference in this. The reason for it is, yes, she's absolutely right. In a lot of our states in this country, child marriage is allowed. So teenage marriage is allowed with two things, either parental consent or judicial consent. Whereas what is being proposed right now by Trump and his fundamentalist Christians that are in his pocket Republicans, the pedophile protectors that we see in this pathological party, what is being proposed is the child can consent to getting married or having sex with an adult. So the present law.
And they throw that term child they throw that term child around very loosely because they don't understand the actual age when a person becomes an adult. See, people are not in sync with nature. Now, yeah, they're a child according to this world, and you want to stay as far away as that is possible because, you know, the repercussions that could come with that. But if people understood how nature worked, like when your body tells you that you're ready, then you have to follow the biological time clock. And people oftentimes, they project their emotions over reality. And this is the reason for people all messed up. Okay, what you have here in America and in the current society is a bunch of emotionally driven people. Okay, they don't go off facts and logistics, they go off emotion. So therefore, the truth is stranger than fiction to these people. That's why they bug out when it comes to, you know, you doing shows like this. This is why they bug out, you know, and we're just telling them according to the scriptures. All right. So debating, see some doctors, hold on, because Yahweh Shai, when he became a young man, I think he was at the age of 12 at that time. I think it mentions in it, Luke 5:17. Let's see something here. Yep, matter of fact. So this is the book of Luke 2, and I'm going to start at verses 39. It says, when they perform all things according to the law of the Lord, they returned into Galilee, to their own city of Nazareth. And the child grew and waxed strong in the spirit. See, it says he grew. It wasn't necessarily, I mean, he was still a young man. He was still considered like a child, so to speak, but he wasn't like a kid, if that make any sense. He was just a young version of an adult. Okay, yeah, he still had people, because, you know, you're 12 years old. You ain't really ready to go out and face the world by yourself, but you're being prepped for bigger things in life, man. Like when Yahweh Shai, when they didn't mention because people say, the missing years of Yahweh Shai's life, what was he doing? I mean, we really won't know that into the kingdom, but obviously it's quite obvious, and I speculate, and I speak as a man when I say this, but obviously, you know, the Most High was preparing him and dealing with him, you know. He was getting his power. He was figuring, it's kind of like Brightburn, you know. The whole time he spent as a kid, lived the life as a kid, you know, and we just maybe, you know, did things here and there. But when he got 12 years old, that's when, you know, the Lord started to deal with him. And then it fast forwards to him becoming an adult. So from the age of 12 up until when he started his ministry, you can speculate that the Most High was actually putting him through spiritual training, so to speak, and perfecting his gifts, man. Okay, because Yahweh Shai grew up a child just like the rest of us. So you have to really speculate that in your mind, man. Even though, you know, the scriptures don't really go into detail of it, but I mean, it's common sense. You know, if the spirit is dealing with you, then you can receive that. But it says, and the child grew and waxed strong in the spirit and filled with wisdom, and the grace of the Most High was upon him, the grace of the Lord, right? It says, now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. And I'm going to look up 12. I mean, of course, it's just going to give an age, but I want to see what it says in depth. I may go into the commentary and see what it says, but I mean, we can look it up. But it says here, and when they had fulfilled the days as they returned, the child Yahushua tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. But they, supposing him to have been in company went a day's journey, and they sought him among his kinsfolks, their kinsfolk and acquaintance. So he was with his people. And it says, and they found him not. I mean, he wasn't around. He dipped out. It says, and when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him. So they went looking for him, but they couldn't find him. And it came to pass after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking questions. And all that heard him was astonished at his understanding and answers. And when they saw him, they was amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorry, which proves that Yahushua had a physical birth, because why did it say his father if Joseph wasn't the biological father of Yahushua? So that's a cut to the virgin birth right there. But it says here, and he said unto them, how is it that ye sought me? It says, was not ye that I must be about my father's business? And they understood not the saying which he spake unto him, because in her mindset, the mother's mindset, he's still a little boy. You still young. You can't be dipping off like that. But Yahushua like, look, man, I got things to do. All right, already getting prepared for the spiritual battles that he had to face in life. So, yeah, he was a young man at that time. Okay, still under the tutelage of his parents, of course, but that show you there, man. When kids get of a certain age, they have their own personalities. They start doing what the hell they want to do. They have to figure life out. All right. And that's basically all we're saying. We're not saying go out here and be jumping on people. We ain't saying that. But we're telling you that this world got it wrong. Okay. And we're saying this world has it wrong. Okay. You people have it wrong.
Laws in those states that do allow parental or judicial consent are already deeply problematic, because that means that the child is forced into marriage due to family or court pressure. Now, if you lower that consensual age to 14, it would hand legally sexual consent to children, teenagers, adolescents. Everyone that has come across a teenager understands the implications of this, how they do not have the capacity to.
But she's stupid, though, because teenagers are having sex anyway. Like, they having sex any goddamn way. All right? You have your daughters out here in these skimpy-ass clothes. Your daughters are out here all times of the night. Hell, I could be coming from a bar, and you got kids out running in the damn street. I'm like, shouldn't y'all be in the crib where y'all parents at? Okay, like the YNs, them niggas between the age of 9 to 22. Hell, you got shit. I remember, matter of fact, it was about a month ago, and I was coming home from work, and you had a bunch of young kids, 9, I think the oldest may have been 13, breaking in somebody's vehicle across the street, running down the damn street. I'm like, these are fuck. You know what I'm saying? Doing things like that. So, I mean, what the hell? So now all of a sudden, this is just like a big, oh, this is a no-no procedure. But they rather for the kids to run out here and destroy their lives and get older and become hoes and sluts, explore their 20s, be hoes in their 20s, and then find a sucker to settle down with when they basically on the end of their biological time clock. Now all of a sudden you got to wipe this chick up. You know, it's a vicious cycle that constantly replays and repeats constantly, man. And this is the result of it. And this is why everybody's all messed up, man. Hell, by the time your mother is in her 30s, she has all types of psychological problems because she's known too many men in her life. That's why a woman was supposed to deal with one man her entire freaking life.
Fully understand any type of agreement, even if they want to, because their feelings are not sound in any sort of healthy logic that can have long-term implications. Sorry, random tangent, but it would.
Yeah, they're not, because they've grown up in a weaker society. Okay, we just read in Isaiah the 5th chapter, they've grown up in a wicked society. And even when they grow up, their minds are not going to be equipped to handle the pressure of the world, because they've been indoctrinated since they got out the womb. You've been indoctrinated since your first words, man. So you take 30 plus years of indoctrination, the last 20 or 30 plus years of your life or so, it's just going to go down. You know, it don't work. Get this here, Isaiah 25. I hate this time of year, man, because that's when my allergies and that season change, man. You know, you start getting fucking sick. I hate it. But Isaiah 25:7, it says, He will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over over the nation. That veil is the lies and deception. It says, And he will swallow up death and victory, and the Lord Yahweh will wipe away all tears from all faces, and the rebuke of his people shall he take away from all the earth, and the Lord have spoken it. All right. So yeah, we're coming into the time now that the truth is coming out. That's why this type of information is becoming pretty much known in the world. Okay, yeah, people are gonna they're gonna push back. There's gonna be pushback on it, but that's only because this world has been fed with lies and bullshit. Okay.
Put hand an adolescent legal sexual consent, which then makes it so easy for sexual predators to bypass any accountability through either parents and family that would never allow this situation, or any legal accountability in the court system. Besides all that obviousness, it would also normalize adult minor sexual relations. The implications of this.
And that's what they're concerned about. They're more concerned with the women, young women becoming wise versus kids getting locked up for crimes and facing a life sentence. They more concerned about what happens to the woman than anybody else, and that show you that this is a gynocentric society when it deals with the worship of the woman's sexual organs, man. Okay, this is literally the queen of heaven. That's why America is known as the Babylon the Great, confusion, also known as the Great Whore, because this whole system is circumventing around the woman's emotion, and this is why these women are completely out of order. All right, they want to make it seem like these women are just so innocent angels. These women are demon. By the time they turn 10, they are already on demon time, man. Hell, when I be at the gym working out, man, over the summer, they have like the summer kids program. And, I'll be downstairs in the weight room, and, you have counselors there that's supposed to watch over the kids. And these little girls are 9 years old, 10 years old, listening to some Sexy Red in a public place. I'm like, why y'all listening to this? And then another thing too, man, in a boxing gym, these young, like 3 little nappy haired little girls, I think the oldest one may be like 12, if that. Elementary school, they be coming in there in the ring and trying to box. I'm like, why y'all in here? Y'all shouldn't be around us. Like, what are you doing? Where y'all parents at? One chick, she going, well, I want to know how to fight because I start school next week. I'm like, how old are you? This chick ain't even 13 yet. She's a fucking, like a baby. And I'm like, you have a mindset of this already? I'm like, you going to school to fight people? And I said that. Already young thoughts and young YNs or YNs in training. 10, 11, 12 years old, 13 years old, man. Tight on, they got the little nails done. I mean, these are considered little fucking girls. And they're inside the boxing gym with grown men in there training and shit. And they're in the way. I'm just like, y'all got to get out the way. What are y'all doing in here? Y'all shouldn't be in here. Trying to learn how to fight. And they really not learning how to fight. They just being fast. Got their little tight shit on. And these are little fucking girls, man. I'm like, where are your parents at? So if the parents are not caring about the kids, then it's just like, you act like these children are just so innocent. These are little monsters, man. And it's real disturbing to see it.
If you understand sex trafficking, especially internationally, are so mortifying. I've been shaking all day about this. It is the implications. If we lower it to 14, it would gut any statutory rape protections that we have, and it would make it nearly impossible for anyone that intentionally tries to go after 14 and 15-year-olds sexually to ever be prosecuted. And I want everyone to hear me clearly about this next part, because this is the danger of consent, and also why any predators would overjoy in this type of legislation happening, because it is incredibly easy to convince a child, an adolescent, that what is being done to them is by their own desire and design. When a child is too young to know better, predators just tell them that what is happening is an experience of love and perfectly normal. And then they tell them that you can't tell anybody, or else that person's going to die or they're going to abandon you or whatever. And little children absolutely will fall for that. And that's why those people should be executed immediately. Now, if we look at adolescents, you would believe that they know better because they know certain things within sexuality or any of their experimentation. No, incorrect. It is just as easy to manipulate them. Teenagers that will find themselves in some variation of a connection with these predators often will have some type of abuse or neglect within their family structure. So
Okay, so that's good on that because she's basically just going off her emotions, which, at some point she make you get it because there is a lot of sickos in this world. All right, there's a lot of weirdos, a lot of sick people. Hell, your elites, they want a bunch of. Where the hell you think all the kids are going? Okay, you think Trump haven't messed with a kid before? Of course they did. They was talking about what's that chick named Pam Bondi? I don't know if it was a Photoshop picture, but allegedly, when she was like 14, 15 years old, Trump was probably in his 30s then, probably 40s, because Trump is every bit of 78 years old. He's old as hell. Pam Bondi, she's probably, Edomite women age horribly. She's probably in her early 40s now, look older than that. But regardless of it, you don't think like Epstein, these are the people that that consent into wickedness, man. So when you're trying to incorporate the Most High in a wicked world, and the world rebels against it, it don't work. Okay, but a wicked world needs the biblical laws of the Most High to make it righteous. But we have a wicked ruler that don't push the commandments of the Heavenly Father. Okay, so let's get down to the meat. Salakia, man. I know I was kind of going in because I like to make points to get them all out because you have to really chew the meat up for Jake, all right? Because Jake choke on soft chicken. Jake choke on applesauce, man. You know what I'm saying? You got to literally chew applesauce up and feed these niggas because they'll choke on that shit if you don't do it. What you mean by that, brother? You said that you can do it. Bro, no. Okay. But anyway, I said, how old was Isaac and Rebekah? And it says the age of Isaac and Rebekah as specific life events are not explicitly stated in the Bible, but there are traditions, interpretations. Isaac is thought to have been 37 at the time of binding of Isaac. Rebecca traditionally thought to have been 3. No, that's clearly not right. Okay, a 3-year-old cannot have sex. You don't know. She was not a baby. Baby, no. But it says here some suggest that she was 14 years old. Okay, 14 years old, a marriageable age. Like I said, my grandmother, she got married at a young age. That was common back in them days. All right, so let's see what it says here. I went to Grok and I typed it in. I said, what was the average age of marriage and consent in biblical times? Now, it says in biblical times, the average age of marriage and the age of consent vary by culture, region, and time period, as the Bible spans a wide range of historical contexts. The text themselves doesn't explicitly state a universal age for marriage and consent, but actually it do when you go into the actual meaning of the word. It says, so we rely on historical and cultural evidence from Near Eastern societies, Israelites, Canaanites, later Greco-Roman influence, which were under Greco-Roman world, which allows you to marry little boys. Okay, so show you how wicked that is. See, people will condone homosexuality and all this other shit, but when it comes to actually speaking on truth, then it becomes a problem. But yet you have grown men laying down with little boys, but that's frankly normal here. Like, what's wrong with that picture, right? But it says here, women in the ancient Israelite Near Eastern societies, girls typically marry shortly after puberty. Ooh. See? And this is information, bro. This is not made up. Okay, to show you that we had it right. It says typically marry shortly after puberty, often between 12 and 16 years old. Hey, the apostles is on point with that. 12 to 16 years old. It says this was driven by cultural norms, prioritizing early marriage to ensure fertility in family alliances. Right, fertility. Why? Because nobody wants to deal with no old, used up woman, man. Okay, but these young girls, by the time they turn 18, they've already on their 20th body. Here you got an 18-year-old girl. She's already slept with 20, 25, 30 men already, man. And that becomes because the parents, okay? Because for one thing, the commandments are not being pushed, and there's no structure or order in this wicked world. So they let their girls go out here and be hoes, and by the time the girl gets 18 years old, when she's actually up to legality age of marriage, because the average age in America is 17. Consensual is 17 years old. Canada is 16. But when you when she turns 18 and she's actually able to actually get married on paper, she's already had 25 men. Her chances of staying married is already cut in half off that, because you got a world that pushes women can do whatever the hell they want to do, man. So it starts there. Put the woman in order. Okay, like the scriptures say, where there's no hedge, the possession is spoiled. The possession is the woman. She's totally spoiled because they took away the hedge of protection, which is the dominance and the masculine trait of the man. Because the men are women now, you know. But it says here in the Greek, it says, among the Israelites, girls were often betrothed, a binding engagement, as young as 12 or 13, with marriage following soon after. Wow. It says the Talmud, which that's ain't nothing but a book of witchcraft. It says the later Jewish texts codified centuries after biblical times suggest girls could be betrothed as early as 12 and a half. You see? Even Esau knows that. It's about nature. It ain't because you want to. Oh, come on, man. Fuck. Fuck it. Oh, the water. The water. Yeah, because it's about nature. It ain't about you trying to grope people and fucking. It ain't nothing about that. Like you people. That shit in you people's minds. It says in Greco-Roman context, later New Testament period, women often married in their mid-teens, around 14 to 18 years old. Hey, that's still a young age. Okay, and we're in Greco-Roman times now, and what are the chances that they're talking about this? Okay, because see, Trump's whole ordeal is to bring in chaos and to lock up Jake. Okay, if he could put a YN in jail for 3 life sentences for carrying a pistol, he'll do that shit. So therefore, he got to change things around the board. That's what they do, because they hate Jake. And you got to understand that all these cultural laws that Esau has come up with to take us, it's all circumvented around taking us away from the Heavenly Father and His Son. Everything that Esau has come up with, from the attire to the clothing, the material, to the TV shows, to the way we think, to the school system, has been totally set up and contrary to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, man. Okay? It says here, 14 and 18, though elite families sometimes arrange marriages for girls as young as 12 years old. See? Men typically marry later, often in their 20s or early 30s. We just read Isaac was 37. It says they needed to establish economic stability to support a family. For example, the Israelite men in the Second Temple period often married around 18 to 25, and this could vary based on a social status. So men oftentimes, there was an age gap. So for all that, are y'all like young, men trying to like a lot, like with the red pill shit, you got feminists that come on the board complaining, oh, you got a 35-year-old man dating a 22-year-old woman. So fucking what? And here this bitch, she's been ran through and she can't find a quote-unquote high-value man. So she's mad at the young chick and she's mad at the dude because he's found him somebody that's more pure, that haven't been tainted by the world. Somebody that he can actually build up and teach and pair bond with. And that's what they don't like, because they fuck their lives up. This is why I say that the trauma of a woman becomes a world problem, because they internalize shit and they make it everybody else's problems. All right. But it says here, the concept of age of consent as understood today didn't exist in biblical times, but instead marriage and sexual relations were governed by cultural, familial, and religious norms. Okay. Parental authority, marriages were typically arranged by families, right? And that's not really happening anymore. And a girl's consent was often secondary to our father's approval. Yeah, because, he's the property of the daughter's property of the father until she's married off. It says, for example, in Genesis 24, Rebekah's marriage to Isaac is arranged by her family, though she is consulted. Girls as young as 12 or 13 were considered eligible for betrothal. Ooh. So that's a cut to all you other camps out there that like to say we just on some bullshit. No, we're just bringing out the facts, bro. Okay, matter of fact, let me get this real quick, because I know Jake like to get simple. I'm gonna come back to that Genesis 24, but enemy, true, because he said, "Have I become your enemy because I tell you the truth?" Galatians 4, and I'm gonna start at verses. Let's start at 16. It says, "Am I become your enemy?" It says, "Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth?" Okay. It says they zealously affect you, but not well. Yea, they will exclude you that you may affect them, right? But the thing is, we being outed because of, the scriptures we bring out. They think that we just, or the men just get all excited talking about this. No, we're bringing out the facts, and we're here to show you that the strongholds of this world is fucking off, man. All right. Matter of fact, imaginations. That's in Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 10, and I'm gonna start at verses. Let's start at verses 2. It says, "But I beseech you that I may not be bold when I am present with that confidence where I think to be bold against some which think of us as we walked according to the flesh," right? Okay, because it takes a bold approach to walk in this truth, man. But men would think that we're just a bunch of grimy niggas because of how we speak, the verbiage we use, and we're just straightforward. Okay, we ain't all erratic like a lot of you dudes out there. And the funny part about it is, you niggas that talk a good talk, you be the most wicked niggas. You got the most shit going on in your congregations. The ones that don't use no so-called cuss words, man. Like Nate's camp, Ricard camp, it's all types of wickedness going on in those groups, man. Hell, your leader at Sakari just found out that like his ass played with. That's one of the that's high level wickedness right there. Okay, we're just bringing out the age according to the scriptures. But see, oftentimes men like to project their wickedness onto other men because of shit that they're doing in the dark. So they like to project and put things on men like us to take themselves out of the limelight, man. And that's how Jake is. But it says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh." Straightforward. "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of the Most High, and bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Yahweh Shai." Okay, but casting down the imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of the Most High, which is this pseudoscience that Esau calls knowledge in this world. Okay, we're here to debunk all the folly and the lies that they've been telling. Okay, because this world is totally engrossed in darkness. Everybody is walking around in a spell, man. They got spells on them. It's witchcraft. Okay, think about it. Like when you think of like watching TV, you have something which is called change the channel. When you're channeling something it means that you're contacting or you're conjuring up a particular entity, man. This is why certain things on different channels, it programs you. Like you may have a horror movie channel, you may have sports, and each channel you watch, it puts you in a different mindset because it's ultimately sorcery. Change the channel. Like it's right in plain sight. And when you're channeling a spirit, you use a medium. What's the medium? The television. You got a liquor called spirits. Hell, you look at Walgreens back in the day, they used to have a little pot with the 1 and a 5-point star, which is a pentagram. I mean, these people are completely under a goddamn spell, and yet they don't even realize it. But we've woken up out the matrix, man, and therefore the scriptures say, he that departed from evil maketh himself a prey. Okay? And, okay, so girls as young as 12 or 13 were considered eligible for betrothal. Puberty as a marker. This is a big one. Puberty was a key indicator of readiness for marriage, especially for girls, as it signaled fertility. So when she's creating, because women are on a biological time clock, okay? So you have a certain amount of eggs that you were born with, and they run out, okay? Every menstrual cycle, when you release the egg and you go on your period, you don't get that back, okay? You're releasing it. Your eggs die out after the course of time. So they have something which is called menopause, when basically your menstrual cycle, it's through. They may as well call it mental stop, because mental or moon cycle or monthly cycle, it goes into your body able to reproduce and you ovulate, and your body goes through the necessary hormonal changes to procreate. But after a while, they call it menopause. But no, she completely stops, because when a woman hits menopause, she's rarely, if ever, to bear children because she has no more eggs to ovulate or to fertilize, man. Esau knows this. You see, all this shit was an attack on the Israelites, bro, because they know our women are very fertile. They said, well, if we can allow them to be whores and mess up the psyche, then eventually, that will cut down. It's all about cutting down the population, man. Because even if you do the scientific research, women that have sex with a lot of guys, a lot of times they're not able to bear children either. You see? So it's been a war on Jake since the beginning. All this shit is just a war on our people. That's just what it is. But it says here, puberty was a key indicator of readiness for marriage, especially for girls as a signal of fertility. It says for boys, maturity was often tied to economic or social readiness rather than a specific age. See, when your body is ready. I ain't gonna quote that nigga R. Kelly song, but he had a song back in the 90s. You know, everybody know what I'm talking about. But legal and religious norms, it says later in the Israelite tradition, the age of 12 and a half for girls and 13 for boys marked adulthood. And as we just read in Luke, the second chapter, Yahushua was 12 years old. Okay. 13 years old for boys marked adulthood for religious purposes. It says, but these are post-biblical developments. But biblical texts like Numbers 31 and 18, Deuteronomy 22 and 28 imply that young women post-puberty were considered marriageable, but no age is specifically is given. But if you go into the word, I believe it's what's the Hebrew word for virgin? I think you got Iwalama, and you have I got it written down, man. We went over this 1,000 times. It slips me, but you got two different words for virgin. One goes into a marriageable young woman, and the other one goes into a woman that's not being touched by men. So you got a concept of virgin. Same word virgin, but two different Hebrew words. But here, cultural, what it says here, it says in Mesopotamia and Egypt, similar patterns existed. Girls married around 12 to 15, while men married later, often in their 20s. For example, in Babylonian law, girls can be betrothed as young as 10. That's too damn young. But it says, though marriage typically occurred after puberty. So she was engaged at the age of 10, but he couldn't have sex with her until her body was ready because she was still considered a little girl. So you had to wait it out. Even in biblical times, which we're still in biblical times, but even then, let's just say if you were betrothed, you had a wife that was betrothed at 14, 15 years old, and you wasn't ready to go on tour yet, and you made it wait till she was like 18, 19. You know what I'm saying? That was your choice. Until she's developed a little bit more, her mind got more mature, you showed her certain things, you know, and when she was ready, that's when you did what you had to do. Bring forth children, bring forth a legacy, okay? This is bigger than just fucking and getting your dick wet, all right? Excuse my French. It ain't about just getting your balls wet all the time. As a lot of you deviants out there would think. No, it's deeper than that, man. Sex is just a pleasure that comes with building a legacy. It's just what it is. But Greco-Roman influence by the New Testament law, Roman law allowed girls to marry at 12 and boys 14, though actual marriage ages were often slightly higher, especially women 14 and 18. Okay, exceptions, elite or royal families might arrange betrothals for children as young as 7 or 8. Wow. But consummation typically waited until puberty. You know what? And it's spiritual though, because even when I was a kid, my mother's best friend, and they used to always make jokes because my mother's best friend had a daughter named Chris. Like, we cool today, and they always say we was like 7 or 8. They're like, yeah, y'all gonna get married. They always said that shit. We was like kids. I was probably like 9 years old. She was probably like 6 at the time, a couple of years younger than me. And they're like, yeah, y'all gonna get married. Y'all gonna be a good couple. And every time I fuck with her, I'm like, yeah, you was supposed to be my wife type shit. Now she's, you know, got 2 kids, just had a kid recently. Pretty little thing, man. But, you know, the streets got a hold of her. So I'm like, you know, a priest couldn't do nothing with that. But you get the point. You know, hey, shit, I go back to Chicago, man, I might still try to slide down and see what she's talking about, man, for fun. But no, they always made the joke, and we were kids. We weren't even fucking yet. We were kids. I was 9 years old. I went physically having sex with girls, though I was attracted to girls, but I wasn't physically having sex with girls, man. Shit wasn't even getting hard yet, so. But they was like, they're like, yeah, y'all gonna get married all the time. You know, Jake over there in the corner blushing and shit. Jake doing push-ups. But yeah, man. So it makes a lot of sense, man. It makes a lot of sense. But biblical examples: Mary, mother of Yahushua. Tradition suggests Mary was like 13 to 16 when betrothed to Joseph, consistent with Israelite practices at the time. Yeah, Mary was a young woman. Isaac and Rebecca notes Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebecca. Wait a minute. Yeah, duh. He was 40 years old. I mean, I don't know why that slipped, but he was 40 years old. That's in the scriptures. He was 40 years old. Okay, they said 37. He was 40. She had to be about 14 years old. He was considered a grown man, and he would be considered a predator according to what the chick was saying. Oh, he's a predator. No, all right. But it says he was 40 when he married Rebecca, and the Lord put that in there for a reason. It says, but her age isn't specified, but cultural norms suggest she was likely in her mid-teens, man. Okay, so you can't get around it. It's straightforward, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And we're just bringing out the facts because we do everything into edification. All right, so this is the book of Genesis 24. Rebecca is chosen. It says, and it came to pass before he had done speaking that, behold, Rebecca came out, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder. And the damsel was very fair to look on. Me. She was beautiful. She was pretty. It says a virgin, neither had any man known her. So she hadn't been gone into yet. She was ripe. She was cool. She was perfect. It says, and she went down to the well and filled her pitcher and came up. And a servant ran to meet her and said, let me, I pray thee, drink a little water of thy pitcher. And she said, drink, my lord. So she already had the mindset of serving a man. She knew what it was, unlike you bitches today. I ain't gonna tell no man. He better get his own goddamn plate. Hey, baby, can you go give me some water? Get your own damn water. This is the vibration that's being pushed in the world today. You know, and she let down her pitcher upon her hand and gave him drink. And when she had done giving him drink, she said, I will draw water for thy camels also until they have done drinking. So she was basically in a servant spirit. And she hasted and emptied her pitcher into the trough and ran again into the well to draw water and drew it for all his camels. And the man, wondering at her, held his peace to whether Yahweh had made his journey prosperous or not. It says, and it came to pass when the camels had done drinking that the man took a golden earrings of half a shekel weight, and 2 bracelets for her hands, and 10 shekels of weight of gold, and said, whose daughter art thou? Tell me, I pray thee, is that room in thy father's house for us to lodge in? Okay, but the point about it is he was going to find a wife for Isaac. Now, when you go here into the Hebrew, damsel goes into the word na'ara, which means a girl, a damsel, a female servant, a girl, a little girl, a young woman. Marriageable young woman means she was eligible for sex. Okay, concubine, prostitute, and she had to be up the age because he wouldn't be looking at no fucking 3-year-old kid, all right, like she's beautiful. That's not how that works. You know, so she had to be every bit of 13, 14, 15 years old. Like that movie Color Purple shows you that. All right. Celie was like 14 years old. Nettie had to be like 12. All right. But he wanted the younger one because she looked better. So that was very common in those days is what we're saying. Not saying do the shit now, of course. You don't want nothing to do with this. You want to, if you got a 15-year-old trying to brush up on your ass, you better run like hell. All right. This ain't the kingdom, bro. We are not in our kingdom. Fall back, man. All right, like just you gotta have discipline, man. Especially you wouldn't want to deal with no chick anyway. You barely want to deal with the ones that's of age because they ain't right in the head. Okay, the average woman don't mature past 12 anyway, and I know that from experience. But it says of a young woman, marriageable young woman, concubine, prostitute, maid, female servant, or attendant. So that's pretty much it, man. I just wanted to speak on that, giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Shimi Hawashai. Lord's will, you will edify. Until the next lesson. Shalom.